In the latest episode of Everything Sucks and We're All Sad in the gaming industry, we have an update from Halo Studios. There's drama afoot. I mean, honestly, I genuinely feel really bad for people that are big Halo fans because it feels like there's just never any good news. It feels like every time you hear anything about Halo, it's, oh, they fired a bunch of people and now they're hiring a bunch of AI executives to come in and overhaul their design process with AI tools. That's fantastic. Or, oh, Halo Infinite, the multiplayer is like still a train wreck and they've kind of given up on it. Like there's just always something new, always something new. Well, the latest thing is coming from LinkedIn from somebody that left. We talked about it back when it first happened, but since there has been a clear disclosure of what exactly went down. This article was put together by Windows Central that collected some of these tidbits. As you can see, the title of the article is, quote, "Threatened Retaliation on First Contact." As I dig into former Halo art director's claims, I'm left questioning what else Microsoft didn't want anyone to see, says Adam Hales, published 2 days ago. This art director that left at I believe it was the end of last year, I believe. And it was very, very strange. It wasn't super clear why he left. He was saying that he could talk about it later, had to speak to his attorney and all this. We were like, what is going on? Because he's like a pretty senior guy to just be leaving the studio. Well, former Halo Studios art director Glenn Israel has taken to LinkedIn alleging serious misconduct involving Halo Studios and Microsoft. In his claims, Israel says senior representatives engaged in unethical or unlawful acts, including blacklisting, fraud, favoritism, and cronyism, the act of appointing friends, as well as multiple harassment campaigns aimed at forcing out unwanted employees. For those unaware, Glenn Israel joined Bungie back in 2008 to work on Halo 3 ODST, also working on Halo Reach before joining 343 Industries when it was formed. There's a lot to unpack across Israel's 2 LinkedIn posts, so I will outline all key claims made. This comes around 5 months after his departure, which had already raised concerns online. In the 2-part LinkedIn post, Glenn Israel claims the incidents took place between January of 2024 and June of 25, with his departure following in October of 2025. He states he either witnessed or was directly subjected to alleged misconduct during this period involving senior Halo Studios representatives. Alongside the allegations of unethical and or unlawful acts, Israel says he filed complaints with Microsoft HR in June of 25. He claims that after submitting documented complaints, Global Employee Relations representative, quote, "threatened retaliation on first contact," end quote, and said further investigations would be shut down. He also alleges that complaints escalated internally were later reported as closed, despite being returned as out of scope. Already, the whole point of HR is to handle these types of disputes. That's why it's a whole thing. It's why it exists within companies, is to sort out these types of disputes. And so once that group starts to fall apart and are just shutting things down to quiet people's complaints when things haven't actually been resolved, the whole thing starts to kind of fall apart. He further claims that in August 2025, Halo Campaign Evolved was experiencing what he describes as, quote, "catastrophic mismanagement by senior Halo Studios representatives." During this time, he says the art team from his unannounced project was reassigned and his role was labeled redundant. Israel also details additional incidents between September and October of 2025, where he claims groups such as GER failed to act. He says a director initially agreed to investigate retaliation, but later excluded earlier complaints and related incidents, and further alleges that key witnesses were not interviewed during the process. He also claims Microsoft openly violated RCW 49.12.250 and has not met its penalty obligation. Since the original allegations, other former Halo developers have come forward to defend Israel's claims, suggesting this is definitely not some former disgruntled employee. This is a tweet from Rebs. We've talked about Rebs before, does a lot of good reporting from what I've seen in the game space. He said, former Halo developers are defending Glenn about Halo Studios leadership. They've also witnessed harassment and retaliation. And one says, quote, "though there are those who wanted to fire every single artist, and they told me that bluntly." Robin Kane, proficient executive business partner in program management. Spot on. Halo equals harassment and retaliation. I witnessed it, and it happened to me too. Tyler Davis. They definitely did a lot of us dirty to cover some F-ups up. It's too hard to hold the actual people who make decisions accountable. Those controlling the narrative make it so that it just doesn't work. It's always been the good old boys club of backstabbing, shoulder down, get the F out of my way mentality. I wish the people doing the work nothing but the best. Some of the management is amazing folk, but there are those who wanted to fire every single artist, and they told me that bluntly. If you need anything, brother, let me know. So you have people that used to work there who are confirming these things directly. It's not great. Not great. This like idea of the boys club is something we've seen in the games industry for years and years and years. Right after like what was kind of interesting is circa 2020, there was of course the whole Me Too movement, and that led to a lot of executive leadership shakeups across the industry. So like I believe it was Ubisoft saw multiple of their executives depart and get fired after investigations of misconduct and stuff. It happened with Activision, for example. A lot of the teams working on Call of Duty apparently were super toxic, and it was really bad. Blizzard had a lot of problems. Like it's a well-known thing that a lot of different companies went through this process of clearing it out. Bungie is another one where a lot of the people that were working there were also facing allegations of all sorts of stuff. So it's been a thing that the industry has tried to address. It seems like 343 is now facing the same type of thing. I don't know how they would have dodged it years ago, but this makes it sound like it's been ongoing for a long time, allegedly, of course. Going on, Israel further alleges that Microsoft's HR structure is deliberately compartmentalized to obfuscate responsibility and create plausible deniability. I'm honestly at a loss for words here. The mismanagement of Halo under 343 Industries has been well documented, and hearing that these issues may still be ongoing is concerning. Israel's claims point to a level of misconduct that is difficult to ignore, and if accurate, raise serious questions about how situations like this are handled internally. With new leadership at Xbox under Asha Sharma, there could be increased scrutiny across studios. Ideally, that leads to better oversight and helps prevent situations like this from happening again. This is one thing, like maybe this is the first real clear litmus test for Asha, because it's easy to talk a big game. It's easy to put together a fan meetup. It's easy to do stuff like that. That's just easy brownie points with the fans. But going through and clearing out leadership and like addressing misconduct at one of your most well-known, I was going to say prolific, but I was going to say like biggest and most acclaimed I can't really say that. At one of your studios, clearing out misconduct and managerial misconduct at one of your studios is a tougher task. And so I hope that she actually does review this, because at some point, notorious, yeah, that's a good word. At some point, where there's smoke, there's fire. And at this point, like 343 has been making smoke for like years and years and years and years. And now there's just even more. This also is specifically interesting hearing what one of these people said. Tyler said, let's see. Yeah, but there are those who wanted to fire every single artist, and they told me that bluntly. That's interesting, because one of the things that's been expected is that Halo Studios specifically is going to be utilizing generative AI for like concept art and things like that. It's been one of the major concerns after certain people have left, and they've been implementing new AI tools into their workflows. So it's not funny. It's interesting that he's mentioning that there were people in leadership that specifically wanted to get rid of artists, and they may have just found a way to do that. So anyway, it's absolutely very, very serious claims are being made. And the fact that Israel is specifically bringing up laws and things that he is alleging they have not adhered to, like these are very, very serious accusations that it sounds like he's met with a lawyer about. So I don't think he's just making these willy-nilly. Microsoft did receive a comment regarding the allegations and said, quote, "Out of respect, we don't publicly discuss individual employees' issues, but we do take all claims seriously for both current and former employees," said a spokesperson, which means somehow even less than you would think the more you read it. So all of this is like very, very, I think these are serious claims of misconduct, retaliation. When employees go and speak to leadership about problems, those problems are not being addressed, or are even specifically being buried with HR ruling that something has been resolved when it hasn't been. That's a big issue, because the whole point of HR is to address those issues and fix it, not to bury it. So like these are pretty serious concerns, and I hope that they resolve it ASAP. personally. I hope they resolve it ASAP. But I think that they need a little bit of transparency considering this is now a very public thing. I think that they should come out and be very, very clear about all of this. So we'll see. We'll see. But there you go. Luke, HR only exists to protect the company. Well, that's the thing. There's the difference between the idea of HR, the ideal, and what it practically turns into. Because what's being alleged here is that the HR systems have been set up in ways that are compartmentalized to effectively protect the company. Where this guy can say, oh, your complaint wasn't resolved because it was supposed to go to this guy, but this approval didn't happen. So it got clogged up in the paperwork. So it never got resolved. It could be way more efficiently run. But with a company, there's an incentive often. Companies often have incentives to clog up the HR process because disputes are expensive and time consuming and annoying and include drama, you know. If an employee wants this employee fired because they were mistreated because of this, this, and this, that's a lot of headache. If they can just clog up the process and get the complaining employee to just quit, that's way easier, you know. That's way easier. There's a reason why the stereotype of HR is somebody like Toby from The Office, where he takes down Dwight's complaints, puts it in a box, logs the box away, and he just listens to the complaint, and then people forget and move on. That's unfortunately what a lot of HR turns into. It's not what HR should be. It should be human resources, a way to protect employees against managers, so employees can file claims of misconduct and get the leader facing repercussions if they acted out of line. That's what it's supposed to be. But unfortunately, it often just turns into, okay, and then in one ear out the other. But that's what it is. Yeah, it's who pays for HR exactly. So of course they would look out for the company. Well, the at least in the US, a lot of HR systems are put in place to protect the company in the case of future like litigation. So let's say if a company doesn't have an HR department, if the company gets sued, the company is like, well, yeah, they sent this complaint email and we didn't really do anything about it. We didn't think they were that serious about the complaint. So oops. And then the company's falling apart and they're going to get a judgment against them. But if you have an HR department, then, you know, you have somebody that can defend the company effectively, or at least the company can say that we tried, which goes a long way with a lot of states. There's different rules within different states for HR stuff. I had a family member who had a business dispute with a former employee. And it was like a specific law in Colorado that was causing all of the disputes and hassle. But if they were based in Texas, I think they said, it wouldn't have been a question. The lawsuit would have been thrown out. And so sometimes it's even dependent on individual state laws and stuff. It's crazy. But anyway, they call it people organizations now, or people operations now. Really? That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. Exactly.